I think you're sleeping. Come back in an hour.
Need sleepy.
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
Good morning, everybody. We're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Give a special shout out to all of our listeners on ESPN New Hampshire. Glad you guys could join us, and we're glad to be part of your sports programming this morning. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Today's show is also being brought to you in part by JKJ Boxing Magazine. Get yourself a copy now. Oh, did I forget to tell you? It's for free. That's right. Subscribe to JKJ Boxing Magazine and get it for free. If you want to download it, you can download it right now for free. If you want it delivered to your door, you can get it delivered to your door for free with an asterisk. You got to pay for the shipping. But then aside from that, it's free. Visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the JKJ Boxing Magazine cover, which is right there on the right-hand side. And today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. It's available right now where all good books are sold, and you can literally get a copy of it right now by visiting Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Now, if you're going up to the International Boxing Hall of Fame weekend extravaganza in a couple of weeks, check me out. I'm going to be selling the book at the card show. I'll have a table there with my man James Curl, and I will be able to sell you a copy of my book at a discount price and sign it for your ass, too. That's right. I'll be able to do all of that stuff right up there at the Hall of Fame, so make sure you check us out. But if not, get a copy now. It's a great read for everyone. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. Coming up a little bit later, we got Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazard. We'll get his thoughts on some stuff. Today's Blast from the Past is going to feature, arguably one of the best fighters to have a lace on a pair of gloves, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Alex Papali will be joining us for that. I got some news to talk about. I'm kind of in a negative mood today because I stumbled across something, and what's better than to get in a negative mood and bring my anti-negativity co-host on, Sal Rocky Senecola. What's up, brother?
Hey, good morning. I want to hear what is so negative. Hey, you're going to have Sugar Ray Leonard you're going to talk about. He was arguably one of the greatest fighters. He really, really rose to the occasion on several moments of many, many great fights during the era that I happen to be a part of and love, when fighters fought to win.
Well, not only did they
competition out there.
That's right. I was just going to say,
absolutely.
Not only did they fight to win.
Need a manager,
that's right. They also fought the right fights, But my topic today is Triple G versus Daniel Jacobs. I like the fight. I think it's a good fight for both fighters, and I think it's a good fight for boxing in the wake of all this BS going on with Canelo Alvarez vacating his belt. He's getting hammered by the boxing fans, and rightfully so, Sal, because, you just don't do that. There's so many belts, and on one hand, at times I've admired fighters for taking that belt and saying, I don't need your stinking belt, and proving that, they could still do well either fighting top competition or doing well at the gate or in their pocketbook. Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao obviously don't need a title to get people to watch them. But in this particular case, there was so much riding on the significance of the title, not so much that particular title, but the progress of Triple G collecting all the titles, and that was a showdown type of a fight. That I just think Canelo is. I think he's pulling a girly move, to be honest with you.
Well, I will agree with you. I mean, you fight for the coveted title belt, and even if it's a fracture of or fraction of just what the title used to be, it's still a title belt. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this belt and having that belt, yes, would have ultimately have brought Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin in the ring together for the final showdown. And that being this true story, and having the sanctioning bodies force that fight, that might have been one of the reasons why he did resign that belt, to do it on his terms and not the sanctioning bodies' terms. Which, again, you're a champion. You fight to get the title belt and to defend the title belt and ultimately be the world champion. Our buddy Boom Boom Mancini said, hey, there's only one world. There should only be one belt.
I can't stand the fact that fighters today want everything in their favor. It's like playing Sal Rocky Senecola in a game of Monopoly. He's got to be the banker. He's got to have the choice of the character that he wants.
I want Boardwalk and I want Park Place.
Exactly. I mean, hey, I'll play Monopoly with you only if I automatically get Boardwalk and Park Place, and I get to have the little race car, and I get to be the bank. If I can't have all of those stipulations, I don't want to play. I mean, that's the way it sounds, right?
You right there watching me play when I was a kid.
See?
Unbelievable. That was a great game.
I watched you pocketing those yellow $500 bills too, and slipping them underneath the box. Man, I saw you doing that.
I used to clobber my neighborhood. For some reason, I just rolled those dice every time, right in the right room.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I'll bring you to the craps table. You can roll some dice for me. But I tell you,
we're going to be up at a casino very soon, aren't we?
We're going to be near one. Yeah, we are going to be at one.
We're going to be commentating. There's going to be fights up there, I think, right?
Yeah, no, there's going to be a good fight card. Ruslan Prodanikov is returning to the ring. We will be doing some fun stuff up there on LDL TV, but we'll chat about that maybe next week. But listen, I'll tell you what got my goat today.
Tell me. I want to hear, Billy.
I know
you do. This is very upsetting. I don't want your day to start off on such a negative note. Well, we got to correct this right now.
It already happened. So,
all right.
I mean, I can't help it. I can't help it. But I'll just tell you, there's a fight card taking place this Friday up in, actually, a little north of where we're talking about, up at Turning Stone. This is taking place at the Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino. Now, I was about to blast the New York State Athletic Commission for allowing this card. And I'm not going to mention who the matchmaker was, but she ought to be banned from boxing for putting together. Like some of
my favorite politicians that I love to bash. Yeah. I won't mention her name.
No, I know, but I could guess. I guess I will guess that her initials are HC. But anyway, this particular matchmaker is known for putting together some pretty horrific fights. And I just and not only that, but this fight card is actually making its way to CBS Sports Network. Now, not main CBS, thank God, but the CBS Sports Network. It's being promoted by two promoters, Greg Cohen Promotions and Square Ring Incorporated, which is Roy Jones Jr.'s promotional company. And I just want to. I don't know how a commission, even though this isn't the New York State Athletic Commission, this is the Seneca Nation of Indians Athletic Commission. So I don't know how experienced they are, but check out the card. Now I just, before I go any further, I just want to make one thing perfectly clear, that this is based on BoxRec. Now, BoxRec is not the official stats or schedule. It's a really good guide, and it's usually very accurate, but it's not official, okay? So let me just say that. So these fights may not even be the actual fights. But the main event is a heavyweight, Jarrell Miller, who's getting a lot of recognition. He's fought no one yet. 16 wins, no losses, and a draw. He's taken on Nick Golvas, who's got a record, who I've never heard of, by the way, who's got a record of 12 wins, 3 losses, and 2 draws. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the most competitive fight on this card, Sal. That's the most competitive, and that's the main event, and that's the one that's going to be on CBS Sports Network. So I think that that's an okay card for an okay match for this card. But check out the rest of the card that's scheduled. In the lightweight division, Hermanito De La Torre is 17-0, taking on Guillermo Sanchez, who I've seen fight many, many times. He's now 15 wins, 18 losses, and a draw. The next fight is in the welterweight division. Nick Cassell, 22 wins, 4 losses, and a draw, going up against Antonio Chavez Fernandez, who's got 7 wins, 26 losses, and 4 draws. The next fight on the schedule in the super welterweight division, Skender Halilai is 9-1, going up against Jason Thompson, 5-11-4. And also in the super welterweight division, Malik Hawkins, 7-0, going up against Richard Hall, 11-23-3. In the featherweight division, Glenn Desern, 6-0, going against Harvey Murray, 4-4-2. I'm okay with that fight. I'm okay. Yeah. So congratulations to the matchmaker for making 2 fights that are acceptable fights. And finally, to open up the show, in the middleweight division, Sadiq Muhammad, who's 2-0, going up against a pro-debuting Sacrificial Lamb in Eric Plumari, who's got no amateur experience or anything.
Are you kidding me?
This is my point, Sal.
How could they even sanction these fights? I mean, wasn't it years ago that if you had too many losses, you had to be looked at as the commissioner and had almost not banned from boxing, red flag, and say, hey, I think you better start looking for another job.
Well, this is my point. You know how, and you know what? I want to apologize to all the boxing fans out there that watch this show or listen to this show on the many radio stations that we're on, including ESPN New Hampshire, which we're chatting with right now. But the truth of the matter is simply this. I've been kind of negative, believe it or not, Sal. I've been kind of negative with the sport of late. And this is reasons. Now, I wrote an article years ago about club shows being the backbone of the sport of boxing. And it really is, Sal. Without those small club shows that you can go to in small town USA or any other country in the world and sit and watch some young up-and-coming fighters, that really makes or breaks boxing fans. They become boxing fans by going to these small club shows, and they actually get to know and begin to follow these fighters on their way up. This is a typical example of a small club show. But who the hell is going to go and buy a ticket? I don't even know what the tickets cost, but let's say they're $25 for general admission. Who's going to spend $25 when you know damn well every one of the fighters on the A side is going to win this? They're unless somebody shoots one of these guys from the third row, the A side is going to win every one of the fight. I mean, there's no competition at all on this card. Well, how can they do this, Sal?
I don't know. I don't know how they can sanction these kind of fights. Like I was saying earlier, I think, and let me retract and rewind a little bit. Yes, boxing is the kind of sport where, all things being equal, any given fighter could be beaten on any given night. But when you try to obviously put the edge or slant it so inappropriately, or having a sacrificial lamb fight an undefeated guy or somebody with a great record like that, it really exposes not only the vulnerability of the so-called prospect or contender, but also just the idea that these guys are going out there and they're going to leave the ring with a very bad headache. And how long could they do that before we're going to be taking care of them in a wheelchair? It's a shame. And as I said, the only fighter that I remember having a bad record that was given a shot that really, well, I shouldn't say the only, but one of them, wasn't there a heavyweight champion? What was his name? Mike Weaver or so? He had a losing record, and I'm trying to think of who he fought, and he got a chance to really just go out in the ring, and he upset everybody. I mean, he was really something else. He was also a concert pianist too, wasn't
He
he?
wa- he didn't have a losing record.
He had quite a few losses in
No,
his
but there
career.
was someone else I think you're thinking of. But hold that thought. Let's take a short break, and when I come back, we'll finish up that, and I got something to add to it as well. We'll be back in 2.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now, back to the Billy C. Morning Show. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show right here on ESPN New Hampshire. Today's show is being brought to us in part by JKJ Boxing Magazine. Subscribe today. It's for free. Visit our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the JKJ Boxing Magazine cover and start getting it now. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant. Check out the menu online, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Speaking of Sal, he's with me right now. And before we went to break, Sal was making some great points about these mismatch fights that I'm complaining about that's taking place up in Niagara Falls this Friday. Sal, you were talking about the safety of the fights. Now, just to get back to what you're saying, I think you were referring to Mike Weaver had a winning record when he won the title. He, as far as I can recall, I think he beat Big John Tate in a heavyweight matchup.
Yes.
But the fight that the guy that had a sub par record, almost 500, I believe, was Freddie Pendleton, who won a title. I think it was him. My mind is going, but somebody had won a title, and I thought it was Freddie Pendleton, had won a title when his record was maybe 500 or slightly above, and really opened up some doors, which is good. But getting back to your safety issue, I think that's a great point, especially in lieu of everything that has been going on in the sport of boxing today about the safety of fighters and stuff, and it starts with mismatches, and in addition to safety, nothing for nothing, but these young fighters, even though guys like Nick Caswell and even to a degree Hermanito De La Torre, who's got 17 fights under his belt, and Jarrell Miller, who's got 17 fights under his belt, they're not, because of the level of opposition, unfortunately, they're still in the developmental stage. But still, they're not being given a chance to get better. I mean, when you're 22-4 with a draw and you're going up against a guy 7 wins, 26 losses, and 4 draws, or if you're 17-0 going up against a guy 15, 18-1, you're just not getting an opportunity to improve. And I think that's the issue, especially when you're talking about long-term safety, Sal, because if these guys are blowing away opposition that shouldn't even be in the ring with them, how are they going to get better when they finally get their shot at a realistic world-class level fighter?
Well, exactly, and that's what we were saying earlier. And yes, it was Mike Hurricane Weaver, because I think although he didn't have a losing record, but he did at the time he fought for the title. I think he had a 50 percentile, maybe 20 wins and 10 or 9 defeats or so, and that was just so uncommon to see at that time, that era of fighting, that you saw a guy getting title shot with more than 4 or 5 losses at that era of when these fighters came in the ring with these near perfect records.
Right.
But he was a great fighter, great champion, and I loved watching Mike Weaver perform. But you're so right with this. I remember fighting a fighter at the Tangiers Club in Akron, Ohio. It was the first time I met Boom Boom Mancini because he was doing a color commentary that night. He had actually fought the same fighter maybe 6 months, 8 months earlier. His name was Tony Rutledge. Good fighter, a gamer, a tough guy, and but Tony Rutledge was put in the ring to be an opponent, pretty much. And we fought a pretty good hard fight, but I won, and Mancini was there. Mancini fought him earlier and beat him as well. So I don't know what the guy's doing today, but I know he had a losing record, and he was used as a dangerous little spoiler or a fighter that was a great opponent and was a gamer. And I just hope he's doing well today because I know he got some hits with some hard shots. He could also punch a little bit, but anyway.
To follow this along, it's not just the small club shows. I've been pretty critical of Lou DiBella from DiBella Entertainment, and he announced he's got a very successful series that he does. They broadcast him usually on a Wednesday night from B.B. King's Blues Cafe in Manhattan, but occasionally they go to other places, and it's Broadway boxing, and then they replay them or whatever. But they have a fight scheduled for another week or so, and they're billing Richard Abril. Richard Abril and Yuri Foreman as being the two main fighters that are on this card, and obviously they're not fighting each other. But here's another example of how today's promoter has become really lazy. Continuing to recycle fighters with a name or somewhat of a name and match them up really. Unfairly, like we're talking about with this show up in Niagara Falls. I mean, Richard Abril, you've got to put an asterisk next to him because he was a world champion and came down with some sickness from getting bit by a mosquito with dengue fever or whatever they call it when he was training in Cuba back in 2015, and he's just making a comeback. So you got to give him a pass. But Yuri Foreman, I mean, in my opinion, Yuri Foreman was never a good fighter. I mean, he was an okay fighter, marginal, but he was never a great fighter despite being a champion. And then the famous "suck it up, kid, suck it up" when Art McCanty Jr. Made him continue fighting despite his corner throwing in the towel and him only having one good leg against Miguel Cotto in Yankee Stadium. He's been continuing to make a comeback. These are the kind of fights that, promoters ride the horse on because they're lazy. They don't want to, promote new and young up-and-coming fighters. I mean, realistically, who wants to go see Yuri Foreman and Richard Abril, even though it's at a casino in Queens? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm the exception of how maybe more people do want to see these guys. What do you think?
Well, we have to look at how the game has changed. I mean, you get a top prospect. You're gonna have that prospect. Maybe if he has a couple wins under his belt, he looks like he's going to evolve to be a contender. You'll have a promotional outfit. Maybe do a little brief courtship, saying, "Hey, look, we'll promote you. We'll do this. We'll do that. We'll guide you." And you sign a contract with Bob Arum, Don King, or Russell Peltz, one of these guys out there. And Don Elbaum's still promoting fights.
He does matchmaking and stuff, but I know Don.
That's great.
I know Don.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And these and they usually bring you along the path that would help you grow and evolve and strategically place opponents in your path that you should get a good lesson and learn. And it was a way they brought up fighters back in the day of just 20, 30 years ago. Today, I don't know if they're still cultivating a top prospect like that or waiting to invest in a top prospect like that. It's almost like they want to cherry pick and get the best that they can find out there right now and then put them in with fodder, and that's it.
No, they still try to move them along, but
Right.
they overprotect them. And they don't give the fighter a chance to get better. And then all of a sudden, a fighter gets in a big, high-profile fight, he loses, and then everybody says, he was exposed.
He was.
Hey, listen, we're running out of time. Let me read an email because this is relative to what we're talking about. This one's from Jesse. He says, "Hey, Billy C, I want to see Jermall Charlo against Julian Williams, Ursani Lara, Liam Smith, and Jermel against Demetrius Andrade and Shumanov." He's talking about Bibat Shumanov against Gaziev, Bello, or Cunningham. They're all fine. I mean, whatever. But I will say this: Shumanov, this is a world title holder right now. So Bibat Shumanov doesn't have to still progress and get better. Gaziev or Bello or Cunningham, it's time for Shumanov to be in actually the tournament that he's in. They're unifying the WBA title, so we'll see what happens. He said, "I saw the Joseph Parker fight, and I wasn't too impressed by Parker. He still needs a lot of work, but if he does fight Anthony Joshua next, Parker's going to get beat. He looked tired and didn't throw enough punches. I see Joshua KO and Parker. I liked the Parker fight, but I think it demonstrated that he does need some more work, but he did fight an up-and-coming fighter, so I don't have any complaints about Joseph Parker. I have to disagree with Jesse on this. He says, "What a bummer for Magomedov. He was supposed to be the next challenger for a belt, but not anymore." Well, that's what happens. This is exactly what Sal and I are talking about. When fighters get, fed a steady diet of cupcakes, how do you expect them to fight a real fight when they get that opportunity? Here's one that, his thought that you got to give me a quick opinion on. He says, "What's your thoughts on McGregor saying that if the Floyd fight is supposed to happen, then McGregor calls all the shots?" I don't know, but this seems like if this fight will happen, it will be a fixed fight. Both just want to cash in and leave. What a joke. This is one of my hang-ups, and I guess we lost Sal, so I apologize for that. Sal lives in Petticoat Junction, and I guess the fire that does the smoke signals for his connection went out, so I apologize for that. But this is exactly what we were talking about before. It's become a joke. Floyd is going to want. This is why, for anybody out there that really thinks that Floyd Mayweather against MMA star McGregor is going to happen, forget about it. Forget about it. I'll tell you why. Because Floyd would want everything in his favor. It would have to be a boxing match. It would have to be in Vegas. It would have to be at the MGM. It would have to be, with Floyd's choice of gloves. I mean, everything would have to be Floyd's way. All right, which really isn't fair when you're crossing the lines from one, sport to another. But with that said, I agree with Jesse. They do want to cash out. They both want to make some money. So who are they going to be making their money from? Who are they cashing out? You, the fan. Because if you buy into this crap, it's a joke. And let me just tell you one other thing. Floyd Mayweather, the only reason why he needs, or he doesn't need to, but the only reason why he would want to come back and fight another fight would be to get the 50th win and retire undefeated at 50-0. He's currently retired right now at 49-0. But he got so much criticism for the last fight against Andre Berto that he would have to pick a name, a substantial fighter to go out with his 50th win, to get, and I use this term loosely because he's got plenty of recognition, but to get the recognition of being mentioned in the same breath as all the all-time greats, similar to Sugar Ray Leonard that we're going to be talking about here in about a half hour, he has to fight someone with a big name. I still think it's going to be Manny Pacquiao. I said it from day one. Manny's coming off a very impressive win against Timothy Bradley, who's a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. To me, and Floyd would feel very confident that he would beat Manny again. To me, that's a better way of going out with number 50 than a guy like McGregor. Now, if Floyd Mayweather retires at 50-0 and beats Manny Pacquiao again, and then wants a fight against McGregor that does not affect his record and he can add another $100 million to his bank account, I don't have a problem with that. A lot of great fighters did that. Muhammad Ali being one of them, fought a sumo wrestler. But to suggest that this is going to be his 50th fight, that's a joke. And for McGregor to even make the statement that he's going to get to call all the shots, that's a joke too. One final thought from Jesse's email. What's your thoughts on the Mosley Aviancien winner takes on the Porter Thurman winner? Listen, we talked about that yesterday. It's sad that you got a great fight in Sean Porter and Keith Thurman, and then the winner of that great fight fights the winner of Mosley Aviancien. But the bottom line, if Mosley does come out on top, it'll be worth it. Hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, we're scheduled to have Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazard join us. I'll be back in 2.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C. first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to the Billy C. Morning Show. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show right here on ESPN New Hampshire. Glad you guys could join us. Don't forget about my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and you can literally get a copy of it right now by visiting BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Now, if you're going to go up to the International Boxing Hall of Fame in a couple of weeks, look me up, man. I'll be at the card show. I'll be sharing a table with my man James Curl, and I'll have the book there for a discounted price, and I'll sign it for you right there. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is a must-read for everybody. So get yourself a couple of dozen copies. You store them. You never know. Might be worth something. Joining me right now, Boxing Hall of Famer, New Jersey Boxing Commissioner, Larry Hazard. What's up, Larry?
Hey, good morning, Billy. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. I got myself, I try not to do it when you come on because it's like, lately, it's like I really got to look hard to find positive things in the sport. And today I got all jacked up, and I guess I'm going to drag you into it, because it's worth the discussion. But I happen to be going through going through the schedule this week, and I was checking out some fights, and I stumbled across a card that's taking place up in Niagara Falls. Now I was about to give my man, the commissioner in New York, a call and say, "What the hell are you doing?" But then I realized that it wasn't sanctioned by New York State Athletic Commission. It was by the Native American Indian sanctioning body up there, the Seneca tribe. And I'm looking at this card, and I started thinking, Larry, club shows are the backbone of the sport. You and I have said that many times, and you agree with me on that,
Yes.
right? I mean, without the club show, the local fans can't buy themselves a $25 ticket or whatever and go to Small Town USA and see a young fighter and become a fan and just feel that juice that they maybe can't feel because they can't afford to fly out to Vegas for a big time fight. So to me, club shows have always been and still are the backbone of the sport. But with that said, I glance at this card. And there is just like no way, unless somebody, a sniper in the audience, shoots one of the guys on the A side, there's just no way that they're going to lose these fights. I mean, they are so, miserably mismatched. My question to you is, without, putting the burden on the commission and the matchmaker, because I feel that they should be held accountable for this, but what does it do to the fan that might shell out that $25? Or would they even consider shelling out that $25 to go to a match when they know who's going to win every single fight? I mean, where do you draw the line for supporting a club show to wanting to get something for your money?
Well, I think that it's not a good thing when even the club shows, there is enough talent out there for the A side or B side or however they want to set it up. There's enough talent out there where you can make even the small club shows competitive. I see it. I mean, the matchmakers have to struggle a bit. But what happens a lot is that you get someone who's new to the business who feel that they are following the model that has already been set up, and it just has become, so acceptable over time that it's always someone who's going to go and buy the ticket. I mean, I've seen shows where a lot of these guys who going to win, they're the ticket sellers. So the bulk of the crowd comes to see them. So regardless of who they're fighting, the people are satisfied. I've seen shows where after each fight, a group of the fans leave because the winner is who they came to see. So they're happy. And it doesn't matter whether whether the fight is competitive or it's not. It only hurts the fighter as time goes on, because as soon as they try to move him up to a little bit stiffer competition, they normally lose because they don't learn. And it's a sad thing, because if you're a promoter or a matchmaker and you're trying to be successful in the business, then of course you're looking for fighters that you're going to groom, that you're going to develop, and these are the guys that are hopefully, going to take you to the top, along with them. And if you're smart, you would schedule fights that are going to be learning experiences for them. That's why most of these small-time promoters, when they start out, you see them, they do one or two shows, and then they're gone, because they just don't know the real formula for success. And it's a sad thing, but it's something that we've been living with in the sport for a long time. And then the commission, on the other hand, oftentimes is reluctant to not approve some of these bouts, and so they play right into it. So, it just becomes a acceptable thing in the business, and it's not good. And I agree with you that, it's disheartening to the fans, and it's not good for the sport.
You know, you make a great point, and I agree with you. You know, for the A side that are selling the tickets and their fans are coming to see them, they don't care if they're fighting a guy selling popcorn. You know, they just want to see him go in there and win. And that's why they're selling the ticket. And you're right. But the truth of the matter is it's not good for the sport, because, you know, even though you're doing that and you're supporting your local fighter as a fan, you're spending that $25 or whatever. Deep down, you know that he's not fighting anybody tough, and I think that it falls right back to that persona that if you have a loss on your record, you're not good anymore, you know. And you know, back in the day, and like I started this question with, you know, the club shows have been the backbone of this sport since day one. You know, I mean, the truth of the matter is that, you know, the rivalries were created after the hometown guy lost, you know, and then all of those fans that came to see him win, they're just as anxious for the rematch as the fighter is, you know, and now you even have a bigger draw. There's more excitement. You know, it's better for the sport. You know, we're going to get him this time, you know, it becomes we, you know, and that's how you create these rivalries that were so influential in the sport to help it on its rise. When it was so popular and when people loved the sport, it was because of you know, rivalries, you know, even small town rivalries, Larry, you know, I mean, you need it in the sport.
That's when real promoting, that's when promoting was really promoting. You don't see the rivalries anymore, Billy. And you know, there's been a number of entities that have contributed to that. The creation of the casino industry, television, you know, these are entities that have contributed to us not seeing the real rivalries anymore, because they have taken real grassroots promoting out of the business. I mean, for example, some of the top fighters that you see today, you know, they're fighting in places that are supported mainly by money that the promoter gets from a casino industry or from television. And yet, the fans, the grassroots fans in their hometown or in the section of the country where they live, can't even see them in person. You know, you have a fighter like a Danny Garcia, who's from Philadelphia. He's fighting the top contender or whoever it is. They fight in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center, where the fight should be either held in Philadelphia or in the other guy's hometown. You follow me? And this is what has been happening. You know, you got guys, some guy from Chicago, top contender, fighting a guy from another part of maybe Detroit or somewhere near there. And what do? They're fighting in Vegas,
right?
For the title. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this has just become a normal part of the business. There's no more grassroots promoting. You don't see the fighters anymore putting up posters and selling tickets and that whole thing. I had a very interesting conversation not several months ago with a real promoter and matchmaker, Russell Pelt, out of Philadelphia. And we were talking about the same thing. There's no more promoting in the business. You know, I've had a promoter who won't even promote anymore in New Jersey because they can't get support from the casinos. You know, and so, you know, that's just a part of the business, and it trickles down right to our living rooms, right to the fighters, the local fighters.
Well, we've talked
local support.
Well, we've talked about that, and number one, the promoter doesn't care about putting posters up anymore because they don't care about selling tickets. They care about the TV deal they got, you know. So that's where their revenue stream is. You know, they don't even care about asses in the seats, you know. And we've talked about, you know, the people, the today's generation, every time I say that, I sound like my father or my grandfather. I guess it's just a normal progression, those
Well, you know
young
how
kids.
they feel. You know how they felt.
I know, and they thought it was so bad with our generation. It's like, damn, we were angels compared to what's out there today. But the truth of the matter is these promoters that are dealing with the people that are in the positions to make the decisions, like you and I talked about in the past, they don't like boxing. They lived through it when in its worst time, the post-Tyson era to where we are now. Yeah. Well, let's face it, boxing hasn't been too great, and they're not fans. So, they're making decisions on what they want to spend their limited marketing dollars on, and boxing's not on the list, So, they're losing that, But
they have no cultural reference to the sport.
No.
They have no connection. They are another generation. And before long, guys like Tyson and some of these guys are going to be all forgotten about. It's going to be like, who? Tyson?
I know. Well, that's
who's he?
I know. Well, it's amazing to even fathom that, but it's good. Hey, listen, when people are saying today in my lifetime that Floyd, no disrespect to Floyd, but Floyd Mayweather's better than Sugar Ray Robinson was, there's a problem, So, as great as Floyd can be regarded as, you can't put him in that breath, But anyway, some fights this past weekend. The one that sticks out is Erslandy Lara, who's an extremely talented fighter. You watch him in his fight this past weekend out of Vegas, and I said to myself, I can see why nobody really wants to put this guy on. As good as he is, he's not exciting. I don't understand. I was looking at a description of another fight, and they were referring to a fighter. He's got great movement, and I'm saying to myself, great movement. Now, to me, that's basically saying he don't engage, because movement, if I said Sugar Ray Robinson had great movement, but the movement I'm talking about wasn't using his feet necessarily, it was kind of moving around, where you can't hit him. Now when they say he's got great movement, it's because he can skedaddle over to the other side of the ring pretty quick and avoid confrontation. And Erslandy Lara is a guy that didn't really move much. He was there, and you have to give him credit because Martirosyan couldn't really hit him, but he needed Martirosyan to come after him in order to counterpunch. He had no plan B to be the guy that started the action. So you had a lot of staring going on, and I had a hard time staying awake for that fight, Larry.
Well, absolutely. I was watching it with a friend, and I was dozing, and after about the 6th or 7th round, I really felt like turning the station, the channel, because you see, he's a good fighter, but he's not the complete fighter, and that's what we look for. That's what makes a fighter exciting, when he's the complete fighter. And what do I mean by the complete fighter? Well, the complete fighter is the guy who has good defense, he has good movement, he has good offense, and when he's in the ring with a less talented opponent, he beats the crap out of him and eventually either stops him or knocks him out. That's what makes a fighter exciting. And all of the great fighters that we talk about from past decades, they all had that ability, and they all had those elements that I just mentioned. But they had good movement, they had great skills, and they were willing to engage to get the job done.
That's the key.
Lara, he doesn't have that.
That the key is willingness to engage, because at the end of the day, the interpretation, boxing is like the Bible. You and I could read the same passage and interpret it in two different ways, and both of us could be right. There's really no right or wrong answer, and boxing has become similar to that. The fans that like the style of a Floyd Mayweather will throw in your face, well, Floyd is a sweet science guy. He's not a brawler. He's not a guy that comes after you and wants a fight. He's going to pick you apart. That's the sweet science. Well, that's their interpretation of it. At the end of the day, excitement is what drives the sport of boxing. You could have a guy like Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano did everything wrong. Every expert that ever watched him fight said he did everything wrong. From the delivery of the punches, he had no defense. I mean, but the guy had extreme power. He had stamina. He had heart. He was in condition, always in the top physical condition, always. And he accomplished what he accomplished. And he was exciting, you know, and people wanted to see him fight. Well, that, at the end of the day, is the key, right?
And the one single element that made Rocky Marciano and all of the Rocky Marcianos great was that they would knock guys out. And you know, and that's, you know, I hate to say it, but that is the name of the game.
It is.
People want to see knockout.
They do.
That's it.
And the thing is you can't convince me that a fight, unless it was just, you know, a battle that fighters went down a couple of times and got back up and it ended up going to the scorecards. You know, you can't convince me that, you know, fighting a tactical fight and landing minimal punches and squeaking out a unanimous decision is not the sweet science. I'm sorry. It's just not, you know, and it's terrible. When you add what we're talking about with these padded records and fighters or their management, I don't even want to blame the fighter, the management's unwillingness to put them in, you know, at a young point of their career to get them better. You know, I mean, look at Rocky Graziano or even Jake LaMotta. I mean, these guys weren't, you know, fighters that you would, you know, show video clips of, you know, how to avoid a punch or anything, you know, but people, you couldn't get tickets to see them fight because they were so exciting, you know, but
people, that's the next. Look, this game that we're in, you know, I guess some people might say it's unfortunate, but this is a brutal business. This is a brutal game. And in order to be exciting in this game, you have to be willing to engage, either knock people out or be willing to engage to the point to show the fans that you can take it and not get knocked out. But you can't be running around the ring, ducking and swinging and, you know, throwing punches and then clinching. And even if you win, even if you're undefeated, you know, you can't expect to be an exciting fighter and expect people to be knocking down the arena door to buy tickets to see you.
No, but
ain't gonna happen.
And you know what the best part is? They pound their chest after the end of the fight, like they just conquered King Kong or something. You know, I mean, after all that running, you know, they need new boxing shoes because they wore out the soles. But hey, you know, boxing's pretty complicated these days too, Larry. I need you to explain something to me. All right. You know, the WBA made a statement not too long ago that they were going to clean up the mess, their own mess, as a matter of fact, because you know, they have. You know, I was talking about this. I actually wrote an article of how in one division, if you take the four major sanctioning bodies, you could conceivably, if you take the middleweight division, you could conceivably have 5 fighters in each sanctioning body. So that's 5 times 4 is 20 fighters claiming to be the world middleweight champ. You know, you got the super champion, you got the regular champion, you got the interim, you got the emerti, you got the recess. You know, you got all these champions. Well, the WBA said that they're going to clean that up, that mess. So they're working in the cruiserweight division now, and I just want to, I need to understand where their thought process is. This past weekend, we had a couple of cruiserweight fights, and one of the fights was Denis Ledebev, who's considered the super WBA cruiserweight champion. All right, he fought Ramirez, Emilio Victor Ramirez, and won. All right, now Bibat Shumanov, who fought and won, he was considered the regular WBA cruiserweight champion. He fought and won as well. And Junior Dorticos, he's the interim WBA cruiserweight champion. So when the smoke cleared, the way they have it set up.
Where's the one in recess?
Oh well, they didn't make it. They didn't make it to this tournament yet. All right, but let me get to this. All right. So here's all the wins. This is how they shake down this tournament. Okay, the super WBA champ gets to fight, which is Ledebev, gets to fight Shumanov, who's the regular old champion. Now, they all three of these guys fought this past weekend, right? So Ledebev and Shumanov get to fight each other. The winner of that fight earns a shot at Junior Dorticos, who's the interim WBA titleist. How are they justifying this? Why? I mean, if they're going to unify the titles, why isn't Ledebev that number one guy? It almost seems like when a sanctioning body elevates you to super status, that you're really getting stripped of your title.
Well, I don't have the answer to that, Billy. I really don't, because I really never understood exactly what they're trying to do with all of these different champions, except I could see the economic value of it. Having worked for a world sanctioning organization for a few years, I do recognize that the economics, because they have, first off, world sanctioning organizations, for our listeners, so that they understand that these groups have absolutely no local authority, okay? So, forget about them as being authority over the local fighters and the operation of boxing. The only authority that they have is over the so-called champions who wear their belts and the fighters that are in their rankings. And if fighters say hell with those belts at any point in time, then there will be no more sanctioning organizations. And I say all that to say that the only thing that I've ever seen, the only thing that I could ever deduct from all of these different champions, super champions, and, different fighters are occupying titles in the same weight division as the hierarchy of greatness, is that they pay sanctioning fees, pretty handsome sanctioning fees, whenever they fight eliminators, fight for the number one position, or fight for the championship belt. That's the only useful thing that I see in it, and that's the only explanation that I could give you for any of this stuff. Hopefully, eventually, they will arrive at one individual who they will recognize as the world champion in that division, the way it should be. But before they get there, I would imagine they will soak it for as much as they can in terms of sanctioning fees.
Yeah, they'll never do it. They'll never go back, because that super champion has to wait in line again to get the regular championship back. They'll never release their claws from the cash cow. They won't. And that's why, like the Charlo brothers. I was making a point on the show yesterday. They make history. You read the headlines. The Charlo brothers make history. They're the first set of twins that held the same title in the same division at the same time. Rah, rah, rah. And I said to him, I said on the show yesterday, yeah, the reason why they're the first is because it was impossible to do it back in the day, because there was only one title. So even if the twins were in the same division, they couldn't afford if they would only one of, even if they fought each other, only one of them would have emerged as the title holder, So that's the only reason it gives them the ability to do that. And because of the world we live in today, they turn that around to try to make it sound like such a great accomplishment, when really it's the result of a diluted system.
Now, one is the IBF champion, correct?
I don't even know anymore.
And one I don't know either. I don't.
One is the W IB. Yeah, one Jamal is the IBF champion, and Jermel won the vacant WBC title.
WBC, right.
So
and like you say, historically, that could have never happened years ago, when there was only one champion in one, weight division.
Exactly.
So that could not have happened.
It never.
It wouldn't have had.
No. And like you said earlier, the only reason why there's a plethora of belts is for the sanctioning fees, and unfortunately, it's the same story.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, what else? What other reason is there?
No, it's ridiculous that people buy into it, and it gets turned around, that it's a tournament of sorts, and it's we're gonna crown one guy, and by the way, they're all talking about their own sanctioning body, no one else's. It's like they don't think outside that. But anyway, Larry, I appreciate your time, my man, and we'll look forward to our normal day next week. All right.
Okay, Billy. Take care.
All right, brother. Take care. That's Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Boxing Commissioner Larry Hazzard giving his thoughts. And, even the great Larry Hazzard sometimes can't answer the question because it's so ridiculous that I shouldn't even put him on the spot. But, it is what it is, and he gets it. And, Larry is he loves the sport. And I know it pains him as much as it pains me. To think so negatively at times, and unfortunately, nobody's going to wave a magic wand and turn it back to the way it is. So we kind of got to deal with what we got now, and we'll take it from there. Anyway, listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, the blast from the past is what we got scheduled.
The Billy C. Morning Show will be right back.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell him Billy C sent ya.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully...
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C. Morning Show right here on ESPN New Hampshire, as our sound system abruptly stopped, so I won't be able to give our official blast from the past intro. But drum roll, please. Oh, I can't even do the drum roll. But joining us right now is my man Alex Perpali, and he's going to tell us all about this week's blast from the past. None other than Sugar Ray Leonard. What's up, Alex?
Good morning, Billy C. How are you? Yes, this is my favorite fighter.
I know. You love him. You actually have a tattoo of him. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I'm mixing them up a bit.
Yes, I have a tattoo of his nemesis. I don't know who's nemesis really, but it really. It did get me steamed up doing this blast again. Just how much the Marvelous One was manipulated.
Well, you can't.
Oh, it gets me steamed.
I don't have to remind you about the no sound vote of the additional scoring that we did that time, right?
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. I mean, as I matured as a fight fan, I'm able to appreciate what he did. But it still stings as much as I did. I did, in fact, score it for him, 115-113 on one occasion.
Well, listen,
was it 115-113 or was it 115-112? I forget.
But here's the thing, and I still feel very strongly about that fight, and we'll get to it a little later. But the fact remains that the significance of the Sugar Ray Leonard Marvin Hagler fight was a couple of issues. Number one, Sugar Ray Leonard came back from retirement and seeked out the best guy he possibly could, even though they were on a collision course before. That you got to give him credit for. And then where you don't really give him credit for, but it's a fact, that fight changed boxing forever, because it was really the first time that a fighter beat a long-reigning champion without decisively beating him or even knocking him out. It was that close of a fight. And we've seen it more commonly since then than not, And my whole point about that fight was it was a close fight. And it was just as close as people still talk about it today. But I felt in no way, shape, or form should they have given the decision to Sugar Ray Leonard, considering what Marvin Hagler had done for the sport, what he did for that division, and what ended up happening with him, losing him forever, from the sport, which I thought was detrimental to the sport of boxing. But this isn't about Marvin. Well, maybe we'll do him next week. This is about Sugar Ray Leonard. Tell us about this kid.
Yes, Ray Charles Leonard is actually his birth name. His mother was a very big fan of the singer, Ray Charles, and so Ray carries Sugar Ray carries his name.
Sorry about that.
Oh.
It was Ray Charles.
I thought I got cut off.
No, Ray Charles was playing a little Windows music, but go ahead.
Yes, Sugar Ray was born May 17th. He just had a birthday not too long
60
ago.
years old. Just turned
last
60.
week, I guess. Wow, and him and Marvin's birthday are very close still. Boy. Because I think Coach just said, or somebody, Dax said in the chat room that Marvin had a birthday yesterday. But yes, he was born May 17th, 1956, in Wilmington, North Carolina. They moved around a little bit when he was young. He was fifth of 7 children, and it was his older brother that got him into boxing. It wasn't until he was a little older, closer to like 14, 15, 16, right around there. They had moved to an apartment in D.C. There was 8 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. Eventually, they were doing a little better. They moved to the suburbs of Palmer Park, Maryland, outside of D.C., and they lived very close to a boxing gym. One of Ray's brothers would go to the gym, and Ray was kind of an introvert. And one day, his brother said, "Hey, why don't you just come down to the gym with me and check it out?" And he took a liking to it, and he became very good at it, and he actually lied about his age. At 16, he lied about his age. You had to be 17 in order to do the Olympic trials, and he went all the way into the trials. He did very well in the 72 Olympic trials. He looked as if he was going to make it. He was 132 pounds, fighting as a lightweight back then, but he lost towards the end. His overall amateur record was 145-5, which is pretty amazing. And of course, he went on to win the gold medal in 1976 as part of one of the, if not the greatest, U.S. Olympic boxing team ever. You had both, speaking of brothers, you had both Spinks brothers who won gold medals. You had Leo Randolph and Howard Davis, as well as Sugar Ray Leonard, who knocked out a Cuban southpaw to become the gold medal champion.
Sugar Ray Leonard was the darling of that Olympics, even though he wasn't the fighter of the Olympics. Howard Davis Jr. won that, but an amazing Olympic class, there's no question about it. And Sugar Ray Leonard, became the media darling. Everyone loved him. He had that great smile, even though we later find out some negative things were going on with him and his amateur career, which we won't get into. I remember having him on this show right after his book came out, and one of the things they wanted me to make sure I wasn't going to do was get into the specifics of what he was writing about in his book. We did talk about the book, but I've gotten to meet Sugar Ray Leonard a couple of times, and sometimes he's really cool and sometimes not so cool, but he was a great fighter. There's no question about it. And I don't think there's been one close to him, although you could make the argument that Oscar De La Hoya enjoyed some success from the Olympics and then, carried that into the pro ranks. But I think Sugar Ray Leonard has proven that, he was above and beyond all the rest because, really, he was until Mike Tyson kind of got corporate USA to shy away from boxers. I mean, Sugar Ray Leonard was on every single commercial. I mean, I remember he was a spokesperson for 7-Up and several other things too. I mean, people loved him.
Yeah, it did take a little while, though. It was probably more once he was a professional. This is the part that's really cool, and the part that I think why so many fighters want to emulate him is Bill. He's really self-promoted. When he turned pro, and that was his first pro fight in a way, was a comeback, because his intention was not to go pro. His intention was to go to the University of Maryland, use the gold medal to sort of go to college. But his father was sick. His father had meningitis, and they were very concerned that he was going to need money. So he ended up turning pro. And he formed his own company, marketed himself, no promoter whatsoever. He actually, admired Ali tremendously and had spoken to him and asked him, who should I get to involve myself with? And he recommended Angelo Dundee. And so when Ray Leonard turned professional, his first pro fight, he made $40,000. So he's somebody who really did it right. Advertisers were a little bit hesitant to jump into the Sugar Ray Leonard business right out of the Olympics, because he actually had a child out of wedlock with his first wife, Juanita Wilkinson. He had a 2-year-old son when they were in the Olympics, and that's the kid who was in the commercials. I forget if it was a Diet Coke commercial or one of the products that he marketed. Eventually he appeared with his son, but it does seem that it was a little bit more into his career. But you're right, I mean, he had the incredible face. That was the thing about him, and I think that there's something about boxers who have that darling face, that sort of media darling face, but they're also killers. And that was the thing that Sugar Ray Leonard really did, is that, by the time he was fighting Benitez, he had mostly knockouts. I mean, he was stopping everybody. So even though he could be a flashy finesse fighter, he was a gladiator, no doubt about it.
Well, when you look at his early career, I mean, his first 2 fights were decision wins, and he started off his pro career with 6-round fights, which was also, kind of, even though he's an Olympian and a gold medal winner, still a 6-round fight, and when you look at his early fights, all the way up until his first world title shot against Wilfred Benitez, he fought some pretty talented fighters in terms of records, maybe not name recognition, with the exception of Dickie Eklund. He did fight him in Massachusetts. Floyd Mayweather Sr., some names like that you've heard. But when you look at the records, all very good fighters, way above average fighters. I mean, nobody could say that this guy cherry-picked his way to a world title shot. And then after he won his world title, as he started, making the history, there's select names on his resume. Some big records with guys that weren't that great. Then you have the Roberto Duran sprinkled in there. So, I mean, he was a smart business guy, and calculated his risk. I know everybody gives Floyd Mayweather a lot of credit. Slack or flack. I always say slack. It's flack. Like myself for cherry picking. But you can make the same argument for Sugar Ray Leonard in a way. The only big difference is that Sugar Ray Leonard did fight the big fights at the right time. He really didn't, with the exception of rematches and stuff, he really didn't, let them go too far out of whack,
True, and I think just their styles of fighting, you do not see Floyd Mayweather sort of go for broke ever in his fights. Ray Leonard was that kind of guy, and that's what people, I think, want to see from fighters. Ray Leonard knew that boxing is part spectacle, and that knockouts are more fun than decisions, and that the precision the strategic precision of a 12-round points win isn't as fun as just a flurry that puts a guy out or stops him. And I mean, you're right. I think that's the thing about this, is that when Sugar Ray Leonard is part of this quartet of the titans of an era. And we're not even talking, I mean, because very often Benitez gets left out of that group. I mean, of course, he would be the fifth of the, because the Fab Four of the 80s, of course, is Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard. Benitez is probably, the guy who is just missing the cut of that group. And, of course, that was Ray Leonard's first fight was with Benitez, and he goes for broke with him and stops him in the final round with just a few seconds left to go. I mean, you wouldn't see that from a fighter like Floyd, but it's a different time. I think that's one of the things about it, is that it does sort of, when you look back at Sugar Ray Leonard, you see him doing things that now perhaps have been perfected in a marketing sense, but not so much in a dramatic sense or an athleticism sense, a greatness for the sport sense.
Well,
and I think that's a big difference.
Well, Sugar Ray Leonard was of old school mindset, and I mean, I always say this to people, that I would have never considered the '80s the last great era, but when you start naming names, like you mentioned Benitez, and then sprinkle in Alexis Arguello, and then some other guys like even Floyd Sr. was a really good fighter, and Uncle Floyd, Roger Floyd, was a very good fighter. Marlon Starling, very good fighter. I mean, there was just so many of these guys. But the thing about Sugar Ray Leonard was that Sugar Ray Leonard did know how to finish the show, and he wasn't afraid to mix it up, and he did take chances, and he did want to prove that he was of greatness by doing things that were not expected of him, like seeking out the best challenges. Roberto Duran, although a lot of people forget that Roberto Duran had been a veteran when he fought Sugar Ray Leonard. He had already been a world champion, had been in the business double-digit years, I think 12, 15 years by the time he fought Sugar Ray Leonard.
He had 72 fights.
Right. I mean, there's a guy, and then that began a new era for Roberto Duran. That was like his second or third life, and he went on to fight many, many more after that. But, I mean, that was Sugar Ray Leonard's first loss. He comes back, he avenges that loss in the famous No Mas fight. He fights him a third time, the Tommy Hearns fights. I mean, he went and did these things. And then, of course, the retirements. After the Kevin Howard fight, he retires for 3 years, comes back and fights Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And you could make the argument that he retired after the Bruce Finch fight for 2 years, when he fought Kevin Howard and then retired again. And then after the Roberto Duran third fight, he retires for 2 years, comes back and loses to Terry Norris, then stays out of the ring for 6 years and loses to Hector Camacho, both losses of his Hall of Fame career, but still trying to do those types of things that only great fighters do. And I think it's a dead breed. I just don't think that fighters of today even think along those lines of a Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yeah, well, I think some do, but I think we're especially right now. It's hard not to be just shaken by the decision that Canelo Alvarez made, because it's so antithetical to anything that Sugar Ray Leonard would have done, Thomas Hearns would have done, any of those guys we mentioned, the Fab Four, the people that that Sugar Ray Leonard had fights that wins over, and that's the thing about it, is that first Duran fight. I mean, that proves so much about him. I mean, he learned a lot in terms of psychological warfare from Duran, because Duran, not only did Duran beat his ass in the fight, but he beat his ass psychologically. he got Ray into fighting him, into brawling with him, something he never should have done. And he learned his lesson. And that's one of the things that, as great as a guy like a Floyd Mayweather is, when he, with no losses, it's such a wonderful thing that a fighter can prove about themselves when they come back from a loss. That's when you learn so much about a fighter. I mean, that's one of the big knocks on Mike Tyson, is one of the fighter who got me into the sport. He never avenged himself in a person who beat him. Sugar Ray Leonard sure did, and he did against one of the most fearsome fighters on earth. And that's what I was going to say, Bill, is that these guys, I mean, because, I love to go to that Boxing's Greatest Fighters book by Burt Randolph Sugar. Well, not only does one of the tests we always do for these guys is one of the sort of measures of greatness is, look how many Hall of Famers are in his record. Well, Ray Leonard, not only does he have Hall of Famers, but he has pound-for-pound greats. He has four guys that are in Burt Randolph Sugar's book. Benitez is at 96 in the 100 greatest fighters of all time. Hearns is at 50. Duran is at 8. And Hagler's at 47. And Leonard beat them all.
No, it's and he didn't. People have this tendency to think that Sugar Ray Leonard was the same style fighter each time out, and he wasn't. There was times when he boxed, there was times when he brawled, and there was times when he did a little bit of both. The Tommy Hearns fight in 1981 sticks out because this was a case of these two guys were on a collision course much earlier in their career, and it's well documented that both Manny Stewart and Angelo Dundee got together and was like, hey, let's hold off on this fight. These two kids are going to fight again someday, and it's going to be more substantial, and they'll be in a position to make more money. And they were right and smart to do it in that particular case, because in 1981, Tommy Hearns, out at back in the day when they used to have those fights at Caesar's Palace in the outdoor arena, actually, which is a parking lot. I love those, that atmosphere way better than the MGM and stuff now. For some reason, I just do. Maybe it was Evel Knievel jumping over them at the same time. I don't know. But Tommy Hearns fights him in 1981, and for all intents and purposes is dominating the fight, winning the fight hands down until that 14th round, which brings us back to 15-round title fights, which really makes the day. I mean, let's face it. The truth of the matter is, Alex, if this was a 12-round fight, Tommy Hearns wins this fight.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing about it, is that you could look at both Duran fights, the Hearns fights, and not only the first Hearns fight, which is just one of the great fights of the 80s, but the second one as well. Each fight themselves has ebbs and flows. There's so many things that go on in it. In that first fight, Hearns really had taken control of the fight. He wasn't letting Leonard be Sugar Ray Leonard, and he was keeping him at a distance. He was slowing him down, and of course you had the drama in the corner with Angelo Dundee. People get so, HBO gets all excited about some stale, rehearsed sound bites from Teddy Atlas. If you want to see real corner drama that's just can't be compared to, that's the fight to watch. You're blowing it, son. You're blowing it. It's just great stuff between Dundee and Hearns. Of course, that it did have a physical, damaging after effects where Ray's eye was never really the same after that fight, and it took multiple surgeries to get it to stop giving him trouble and let him to continue to do some of the amazing things that he did go on and do.
The difference, just real quickly, the difference with Angelo Dundee is that you got all those great sound bites from him, but he didn't put on a special show when he noticed the camera and the mic there. Not like Teddy Atlas. As soon as he sees that red light on, he puts on a performance, and it's pretty sickening. But in any event, one of the fights, we might as well talk about the Hagler fight. as painful as it may be for you. But after the Tommy Hearns fight, Sugar Ray Leonard would go on to fight Bruce Finch, and then like you said, the eye issue kept him out of the ring for a couple of years. He came back, much to everyone was begging him not to come back. You're going to go blind. I remember all the stuff, prior to the Kevin Howard fight. And Kevin Howard actually dropped him, right? Didn't he hit the canvas early in that fight?
Yeah, exactly. Kevin Howard put him down. And
people figured it's over. And, Sugar Ray Leonard walked away again after that fight, only to secure the Marvin Hagler fight, which everybody wanted to see. Listen, it was a close fight. We scored it without the sound. I still believe what I always believed, that it was a close fight. Truthfully, on scorecards, you could, score rounds different ways depending upon, when you watched them. But the truth still, in my opinion, the truth still remains. That fight should have been a draw, and we should have seen a rematch. I think both fighters deserved that. And I don't think that Sugar Ray Leonard won enough of that fight to win that title from Hagler. Even though Hagler made a lot of mistakes. He fought the wrong style fight. You noticed him doing like a little, a little jump for joy or something, just to like convince himself. Remember, you noticed something in between the decision or something like that?
Wilcox. Dave Wilcox really is upset by that. That's the part where that Hagler knew he was going to lose, was when he does this little sort of like a dance when he's waiting for the decision, as if he's not even concerned. He knows this is a cakewalk. He's just waiting for the decision to hear what he knows is true. And what he knows is true is that they're about to job him.
Yeah.
It just seems a little transparent. It's sad because it's so much of boxing is a spectacle, and it looks like one of those moments where it's like, oh God, Marvin, don't do that. It's like he jinxed it or something.
Well, he shouldn't have tried to outbox Leonard, like he did in the beginning and in the beginning of the fight. And I still feel the same way, but in hindsight, Hagler has to realize that he made some mistakes. I'm not saying he didn't.
I would just say all credit to Ray Leonard. I think the thing that's amazing about it is that it really was a vision quest. It was something he saw it when he saw Hagler beat Mugabe. He knew he could fight him, and he knew he could beat him. And to me, that's crazy, because if you watch the fight of Hagler Mugabe, that Hagler's scary. Yes, you could if you have if you can move like Sugar Ray Leonard, you probably can see, wow, this guy is flat-footed. I might be able to box circles around him. But he looks pretty damn merciless in knocking out John Mugabe. Ray Leonard saw that as a chance to come back, and he visualized it. That's what's amazing about it. It's his only fight at middleweight, and he beats marvelous Marvin Hagler. That's pretty impressive. Yes, it was a razor-thin victory, and it would be nice. Maybe the fair thing, you're right, the fair thing would have been a rematch, a draw and a rematch, but life's not fair, and boxing, we know, is not fair. So, that's what happened. Poor Marvin goes off to Italy. And we never see him again.
And becomes Dave Wilcox kind of, pees on him in the bathroom all the time up at the Hall of Fame. But he became a superstar movie guy over there in Italy, and married a gorgeous wife too. So, and we get to look forward to Marvin Hagler Jr. fighting Sugar Ray Leonard Jr. Next year. Which is kind of a joke to me. In April of 2017 for the 30th. Anniversary. Listen, for our ESPN New Hampshire listeners, we are not going to take a break right now because we're still talking about Sugar Ray Leonard. So if you got to take a break. We're going to keep it right here. Right after the Marvin Hagler fight, Sugar Ray Leonard, Alex, was probably in the most famous fight of all time. I mean, who doesn't remember the famous Sugar Ray Leonard against Donnie Lalonde fight? I remember watching that fight and saying to myself, who? Who the hell is Donnie Lalonde? And, we talk about, we gotta make sure we call it like it is. We talk about how crazy boxing is today. And usually we associate all the special privileges that Floyd Mayweather gets from sanctioning bodies and everything else. Well, he wasn't the first, ladies and gentlemen, because Sugar Ray Leonard somehow weaseled to win his 5th world title in a different division in that Donnie Lalonde fight when they had both the super middleweight title on the line, which was vacant, and Donnie Lalonde's world light heavyweight title on the line, which is still a mind-boggler because in order for it to be a super middleweight title, that means the weight limit would have had to have been 168 max, and they just happened to sprinkle in the light heavyweight title fighting at a lower weight. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those when you, after you beat Marvelous Marvin Hagler, you can have whatever you want. And this is one of those things where about a year and a half later, he fights Donnie Lalonde in Vegas, and the WBC. The WBC evidently did not have a super middleweight division yet. They launched the division with that fight. Perhaps that was part of their reasoning that that weight limit should prevail. But at the time, Lalonde was the their light heavyweight champ. So you have one fight against two men fighting for 2 titles in one fight, which, it's a little peculiar. But actually was a pretty exciting fight. Leonard was down before he stopped Lalonde in the 9th round, and it's on YouTube. It's a fun fight to watch, actually. But it was one of those weird things, and it was an example of how the fighter, sometimes the fighter makes the title rather than the title makes the fighter.
It's kind of funny. We'll get to that in a little bit later. But following that fight, he got his rematch with Tommy Hearns. And, that was a fight I couldn't wait for. They were both kind of, you could make the argument that they were past their prime, even though Tommy Hearns still fought on for quite a long time after that fight. But they were clearly both past their prime. And that fight was exciting, too. And ended in a 12-round draw, Sugar Ray Leonard's only draw on his career. And, you could almost say that Tommy Hearns won that fight, but...
and even Ray Leonard says that today.
That he won that fight.
Yeah, he thinks that Hearns deserved that victory.
Yeah.
That, it was a draw, but he thought he deserved it. Because remember, and I believe that it was that fight where they gave... Leonard a 2-point round because he really battered. Because remember, Hearns drops Ray, and then Ray comes back. On 2 occasions that happened because Ray's down twice, and in the 4th he's down first in the 3rd, and then in the 4th, Leonard really rallies, has Hearns rocked, but Hearns never goes down. Then Leonard drops him again, gets dropped again in the 11th, and then the same deal in the 12th, where he has Hearns really badly hurt, but never down. But at one of those rounds, I didn't get a chance to look at the scorecards, but I can remember it from when it happened. One of those rounds, they called, even though Tommy was never on the deck, they called it 10-8. Because he was, if you remember watching it, he's battered from pillar to post. But he just won't go down.
It's amazing because that was Tommy Hearns' weakest attribute was his chin, and it just goes to show you that Tommy Hearns filled into his body and became a much bigger guy at that age than Sugar Ray Leonard. And Sugar Ray Leonard, to his credit, although he had been down on the canvas several times throughout his career, I never remember Sugar Ray Leonard being really hurt, like, saying, wow, they need to stop this fight. He's in some serious trouble. Even the Camacho fight, I mean, they waved it off, but Sugar Ray Leonard, he seemed to get dropped, but never really hurt. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yes, he was hurt in the Kevin Howard fight, and he was hurt in the Camacho fight, but not like you've seen other fighters where you're saying, stop it. He can't go on, I mean, sometimes it almost seemed like he got stronger after a knockdown.
Oh yeah, I think that's a sign of great fighters, is that they're full of guile. He didn't want you to know when he was hurt, so it was always kind of hard to tell. And you're right, that's especially that first knockdown in the second Hearns fight. He sort of goes down, and I can remember him so clearly when he gets up. You could tell he's mad at himself, and he's buzzed. But he's like looking down this sort of middle distance vacant stare, like you don't really know what he's feeling. He was very good at that, at masking how he would feel. And as you said, in terms of his personality, it does show you maybe that how crafted and how he thought about everything. He was just a very strategic guy, because that is something that people say about him, is that sometimes you meet the real warm, gregarious, friendly Ray Leonard, and then other times you don't. You meet Sugar Ray Leonard, who can be cold and aloof and, more the professional type guy.
Yeah, and when you meet Sugar Ray Leonard, the promoter, he's downright nasty. But
yeah.
Anyway, following the Tommy Hearns fight, he fights Roberto Duran for the third time. And this would actually be for his last victory. And one of the things I was mentioning a little earlier that I would jump back to is the WBC Super middleweight title that was on the line for this third and final Roberto Duran fight, and which would end up being Sugar Ray Leonard's last win. And ironically, he still defended that title and won a 12-round decision in a fight with Roberto Duran that had its moments, but it was clearly nothing like the first two. But what I found amazing about this is both of these fighters, Roberto Duran being 104 years old and Sugar Ray Leonard obviously seen better days. And here these two guys are. And Roberto Duran, all kidding aside, if you want to see the best Roberto Duran, you go back and watch him as a lightweight. He was virtually unbeatable as a lightweight. And here both of these guys are. And then, of course, the No Mas fight and the first fight that Leonard lost was at welterweight for a welterweight world title. And here these two guys are fighting at super middleweight and still championship caliber fighters, even though I don't think anybody could make an argument that they weren't past their prime. But the trilogy ends with Sugar Ray Leonard coming out on top 2 fights to 1 against Roberto Duran in 1989.
Yeah, and that third one, unfortunately, was by far the least exciting of them. But it is interesting because there's of course there's that funny story that before the first one, Duran was merciless, and he was just brutal and nasty to Ray Leonard's family, to his wife especially. Then for the second, the No Mas fight, Ray Leonard forced them to make that fight as quickly as possible. It's within 9 months because he knew Duran's tendencies to blow up, and then he'd be in training for the rematch. He'd be fighting himself and his own conditioning, and that would work in Leonard's favor for the rematch. But by the time they had this rubber match, Duran's all smiles because Duran wanted a nice fat paycheck. So the nasty Manos de Piedra of Montreal, who was nasty to Juanita Leonard, is all gone, and he's a nice Santa Claus figure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he sees Ray as a Santa Claus figure.
Well, Roberto Duran was definitely, he was like the George Foreman, the second version of George Foreman. George Foreman was a vicious killer, when he fought Ali, but then when he came back selling cheeseburgers and Foreman Grill, he was a different guy, you know.
Right.
But he would retire for another 2 years and come back and fight Terry Norris, and he hit the deck a lot in that fight. And Terry Norris, I think, carried him to finish the fight on his feet, and we all knew that he was finished, and we all knew that he was still finished 6 years after that when he got stopped in his final fight of his career against Hector Camacho.
Yeah, Hector Camacho, you know, that was an interesting thing. I didn't notice this. I didn't remember this, or it's a kind of a trivia question, but both Ray Leonard and Duran, the last fight, they close out their careers being defeated by Hector Camacho. Duran by decision, and Leonard by stoppage. Hector Camacho takes him out, TKOs him in 5 rounds. It was actually a fight in Atlantic City. I wonder if it was in 1997. I wonder if Larry Hazard was commissioner at the time. He could very well have been. But yeah, that was, you know, one of the biggest regrets of Ray Leonard's career are those 2 fights, the Terry Norris fight and the Hector Camacho fight.
Yeah, they were his 2 losses in his last 2 fights of his career. He would go on and do some promoting, and he's still in the sport today to a degree. He does some announcing and stuff like that. Sugar Ray Leonard, clearly one of the greatest fighters of all time. I mean, you can't take it away from him, and, you know, like you said earlier, he did it his way. There's no question.
Absolutely, and I think some of the things that he's done since then have been, you know, varying degrees of success as a promoter. His company didn't do so hot, but, you know, I think it was probably right in the same ballpark as Iron Mike Productions. You know, they both probably did, you know, similar success or similar lack of success. But yeah, I mean, I did notice that. I guess he has a stalker, according to TMZ. There's been a stalker that's been harassing his family since 2008. That's kind of an uncomfortable thing. He had the admission of molestation in his youth, but yeah, he's still doing well. I mean, in a way, you know, I think he's sort of the ambassador for boxing that Muhammad Ali couldn't be. He, you know, of course, we do still hear him. I think he was, what was he, on NBC, or was he on, I forget which networks, but he was used by the PBC as an announcer. I think he was with Marv Albert, so he was the main NBC announcer, wasn't he?
Sugar Ray Leonard, yeah, he was. He was the main analyst for them, and he does a good job. I always liked Sugar Ray Leonard as a commentator. I thought that he was good. He wasn't quite a Roy Jones Jr. referring to himself all the time, although he did, but not as bad as Roy. Roy is, I know you like Roy, but Roy is the pits for me. But nothing is worse than that CBS Sportsnet crew. Oh, my God. And Moralo Ronaldo is there's so many bad ones. I mean, I don't know. I'd rather, you know, I think today somebody should have the hairs on their, you know what, to have mimes become the announcers for boxing, because I think mimes would be the best. You know, just let them do that and let everyone watch the fights. You know.
They could mime the commentary.
There you go. I think that's what they should do. You know, they should mime. We should have mimes become the commentators today. But who did you put him in with?
I put him in against 5 people, 5 of today's greats in the title bout championship boxing game, because he had so many. He fought at so many different weight classes. So against the 2 great welterweights of our age, first again put him in against Pacquiao. The first time they fought, Ray Leonard just trounced Manny Pacquiao. He had him down 6 times and stops him in the 11th, 2 minutes and 35 seconds of round number 11. When they fight 100 times, Ray Leonard dominates Manny Pacquiao. 86 wins, 11 defeats, 3 draws, 22 stoppages. Of Pac-Man's 11 victories, 7 of them were KOs. Against Floyd, Sugar Ray Leonard, they match up a little better. a little more evenly. Against when they fight the first time, Ray Leonard wins 116. He wins unanimous decision: 116, 112, 116, 111, 115, 112. He had Floyd put Ray down in the 8th, but Ray came on to win. When they fight 100 times, Leonard gets the better of him: 64 victories, 22 defeats, 14 draws, 25 knockouts. Of Floyd's 22 victories, he stopped Ray 6 times. Our friend, Cinnamon, also known as Saul Alvarez, when they fight the first time, this is at junior middleweight, when they fight the first time, Ray Leonard knocks him out, 2 minutes and 56 seconds of round number 7. When they fight 100 times, Ray Leonard dominates, 78 victories, 14 defeats, 8 draws, 18 knockouts. And of his 14 victories, every single one of them is a knockout win for Canelo. So the only time he wins is by knockout. Against Triple G, the first time they fight, Ray Leonard wins by knockout, 2 minutes, 13 seconds of round number 7. He scores a TKO. When they fight 100 times, Ray Leonard dominates, 60 victories, 35 defeats, 5 draws, 43 big wins by knockout. Of Triple G's 35 victories, he scored 21 knockouts. And just for the hell of it, even though he really was never a super middleweight, he only had that Milan fight, I put him in against Andre Ward as well, one of our pound-for-pound bests of the age. When the fight the first time, Andre Ward wins by TKO at the end of round 8, 2 minutes and 48 seconds of round number 8. When they fight 100 times, Ray only wins 14, loses 78, 8 draws, and he won 6 knockouts. Of Ward's 78 victories, he scored 15 KOs.
Interesting. And, I don't know about the Ward. I think Ward gets more credit than he deserves, really. But, yes, several years ago he fought everybody. But I think all the other ones are pretty accurate. I think that Sugar Ray Leonard would have dominated Floyd, and he would have definitely dominated Canelo, Pacquiao. I'm not sure Pacquiao. It depends, because Sugar Ray Leonard he was a bigger guy, The Triple G one kind of surprises me, only because of Triple G's power, and Sugar Ray Leonard never really was in there with a guy with the power of Triple G, except for maybe Marvin Hagler, but Hagler didn't fight Marvin Hagler's style, so you never know, but interesting stuff for sure, and Sugar Ray Leonard, I'm shocked that he gets dismissed in conversation today by a lot of young fans, and it amazes me because, to me, he should still be in the discussion, and for some reason, I find that he's not, and he was a great fighter, and I'm glad we did him. I know it's painful for you, but and I never was a huge fan of Sugar Ray Leonard, but we got to give credit where credit's due,
Absolutely, and I did want to take a look at what Ibra, where they put him, and they put him number 2 all time at welterweight, just behind the other Sugar Ray Robinson number 1, Sugar Ray Leonard number 2, and in terms of pound for pound credentials, he's number 12 all time pound for pound. He's tied with Ezra Charles, just under Joe Gans, just above Jimmy Wild. That's pretty good credentials.
Yeah, it is, and I'm shocked that Ezra Charles is up that high, and Joe Gans is not above them. Interesting. Sugar Ray Leonard, former world welterweight, junior middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavyweight, with an asterisk, world champion. He was inducted into the International Hall of Fame in 1997. His career record, 36 wins, 25 coming by knockout. He did suffer 3 defeats. And he was only stopped once, which was in his last pro fight against Hector Macho Camacho, who's a Hall of Famer in himself. Sugar Ray Leonard, this week's Blast from the Past. Great job, as usual. Alex. Couple of things I wanted to ask you real quick. I want to jump right into a question that, because we've been talking a lot about the fights this past weekend and stuff like that, so I'm not going to really get into that unless I have to, but Terence Crawford against Victor Postal is a great fight. I mean, it's a fight that we want to see in that division. It's a fight that needed to be made. It's a fight that is putting the two top fighters in the same weight class against each other. I mean, I love it. But what I'm getting at is that a pay-per-view level fight? And they announced the undercard. You got Gilberto Ramirez, who's the super middleweight champion now, taking on, who's he fighting? He's taking on Dominic Bertisk out of Germany. And then Oscar Valdez, who's a top 10 rated welterweight, he's taking on Matthias Rudia, who's undefeated out of Argentina. And Jose Benavidez Jr. Is taking on Francisco Santana. That is so-called the lineup for a pay-per-view. And, my thoughts is, as much as all of these fights are extremely competitive on paper, at least, and I know that the Crawford-Postal fight is going to be a competitive fight in the ring, are they really ready for the pay-per-view? I mean, is this a rush to pay-per-view status? Are we really, has Crawford made it to that stage already, and he's a new guy in the pay-per-view world? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I think we're in this sort of weird place right now where the two biggest pay-per-view names have just exited stage left, and I think that right now we're seeing pay-per-views get made with the guys who are supposedly going to be the stars of tomorrow. So we're not sure how they're going to do. And if you look at it depends on whose numbers you believe for Canola. Can we start calling him Canola?
I'm thinking cannoli, but that's
cannoli. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's a hell of a fight. I think that's a very tough fight for Terence Crawford. It's going to be a surprisingly tough fight. In terms of a matchup on paper, it doesn't get much better than that. I mean, two 28-0 guys. So for the casual fan, maybe that would sell. But yeah, I think that everybody who's pay-per-view. You're going to be questioning everybody's pay-per-view worthiness right now because we're really not sure. I don't know, Bill. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. It kind of feels like Mayweather-Pacquiao did a lot of damage to this sport. And I think that we're still in that position. These guys don't want to, and plus you have the PBC at the same time where they're giving so much away free. Then you have these other guys who want to keep with the pay-per-view model, and they have people that are sort of transitional stars that they don't know if they're going to be stars and generate the big pay-per-view dollars like the guys who just left did. So, I don't know. We're in this sort of transition period. I think it's a great fight, so hopefully people will buy it, but I don't know. It's a good question.
The problem is that the people that are putting on this fight are banking on the diehard fans that recognize that it's a good fight and that they're going to shell out the money. But the truth of the matter is we got a whole new set of eyes watching for all those reasons you just said. Now, as far as Floyd and Manny goes, they were an exception to the rule. They generated a lot of money. They were the top two fighters. And as far as doing damage because their fight didn't turn out as exciting as we thought, I don't know if you can really blame that on them because they are what they are. Floyd Mayweather's a boring fighter. Let's face it. Manny Pacquiao isn't the same Manny Pacquiao. I mean, we knew that going in. We all wanted it to be exciting and we all wanted it to turn back the page, but it was more realistic than anything else. So I don't blame it on them. I blame it more on the greed of the promoters not building up fighters to get the fan base that both Pacquiao and Mayweather had accumulated over their years. They're not giving Terence Crawford or Victor Postal, for that matter, a chance. Victor Postal's 2 fights into knowing who the hell he is. 3 fights ago, who's Victor Postal? Terence Crawford, he's come on a little slower, and we know who he is. but he's making quite the jump. Which I'm running out of time, which I want to get to your quick thoughts on this whole Canelo thing. Here's a guy who's self-proclaimed the biggest name in boxing, which I don't even know if I agree with at this point. Backing away and trying to make people believe that the belt, that the WBC was hindering the negotiation process for him and Triple G, which is complete BS, because what's going to end up happening is Triple G is going to fight Daniel Jacobs, which isn't a bad fight. I like that fight. And, it just lets Triple G move forward with what he wants to do and control the middleweight division. I think Canelo has made a huge mistake. I think the media and the fans are ripping him, and I think he deserves to be ripped. What's your quick thoughts?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you just look at social media, I mean, it really, if he has a thin skin at all about being humiliated in memes, there's some pretty nasty ones going around. And he deserves it, because especially after the way he acted after beating up on a blown-up welterweight, to say, hey, Mexicans don't F around. Well, apparently they do.
And not only that, he was saying he'd fight him right then, remember? Let's fight him right now. Come on in the ring. Okay. And then
So that was all a show, obviously. It really is unfortunate. I just was watching this past weekend, it's on Netflix. It's a documentary about Sergio Martinez, and it's fascinating to see how the WBC was involved in keeping the middleweight title away from Sergio Martinez and keeping it with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And it's just sort of shades of that, the same thing going on now, where De La Hoya and Golden Boy want to protect their star, and they know he's not as marketable if he's been beaten up by Golovkin.
Yeah,
I don't know. I still hope the fight happens.
It's going to happen.
I wouldn't be surprised if at this time next year we see it.
It's going to happen. But, the funny thing is Canelo, his marketability isn't going to fade because he's got the loss. He's got a loss, So, I mean, it's not like you're saying that he's undefeated.
Yeah, but a loss to Floyd Mayweather is going to be a lot different than a loss to Golovkin.
Well, that's a matter of
it's going to hurt.
That's a matter of opinion. Triple G.
He's going to have a broken body after Golovkin.
Well, that just goes to show you that Floyd Mayweather is all smoke and mirrors. But Alex, great job as usual, and I look forward to next week, my man.
All right, Billy C. Take care.
That's Alex Papali. Check him out for next week's Blast from the Past. I got one more email I want to read. This one's from my man Joel. He says, I'm not sure if you mentioned it on the show or not yesterday, but did you see Charles Hatley get in the ring to interfere in Jermall Charlo's post-fight interview? He was calling out Jermall to face what would be his next foe. There was only one problem. He called out the wrong Charlo. He's the mandatory to Jamel, not Jamal, who opened up the show and won. He says it must have been very embarrassing for Hatley to make a stupid mistake like that. Yeah, it was. I did notice that, and so did a lot of other media outlets. They kind of bashed him for that. But they are twins. He says, by the way, I just got a surprise in the morning. My cousin, who's living in Australia, he's also a boxing fan. He's coming home at the end of June to visit for a while, and he sent me an email. And when I opened it, I saw a ticket for the Keith Thurman Sean Porter card at the Barclays Center on June 25th. I can't believe it. I'm super excited to go. He got us some great seats. I'll be in Section 8, and they were pricier than what I could have afforded. He said, so I'm hoping to get there early to catch some of the TV back. Hey, listen, and he also mentions that he's willing to do some coverage for us. And Joel, I would love that, so get a hold of me on that. But definitely get there early, man. Don't be showing up like all the other idiots that just show up for the TV bout. Definitely show up for all the fights, man, because you want to get every single piece of the atmosphere there. Hey, listen, real quickly, a couple of things. Mauricio Suleiman, who's the president of the WBC, how sad is it to be Mauricio Suleiman? They do a monthly or weekly, I don't even know, newsletter called The 12th Round, and it's by Mauricio Suleiman, and next to that it says Jose Suleiman's son. I mean, is this poor guy going to have to live in Papa's shadow forever? I mean, come on, man. I think the WBC is a joke, but Mauricio Suleiman seems to be more of a joke. He clearly has been given that position solely because his papa. Over in some other sports, to just get you guys caught up in the NBA Finals, the Raptors beat the Cavs to tie that series for the Eastern Conference Finals at 2 apiece, 105-99. Kyle Lowry had 35 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in that game. LeBron James, 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. In the NHL, in the Western Conference Finals, the Sharks topped the Blues 6-3. They got a commanding 3-2 lead. In Major League Baseball, a lot of stuff happened, but I want to congratulate the Mets, my Mets, for beating the Nationals 7-1. Bartolo Colon gets his W, and I want to wish Bartolo Colon a happy 43rd birthday, which is today. Hey, man, that concludes our show for today. I'll leave you guys with this. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao.